Hello and welcome to Generation AI, the podcast where we demystify artificial intelligence in the world of higher education. I'm your host, Ardis Kadiu, and joined with me today is my co-host, JC Bonilla. Hey, JC.
Ardis could do it. Hi, everybody. Welcome and greetings from the tropical land of Costa Rica, my hometown. My mama's cooking. I've been here for some days visiting the fam, and I'm already on a need of a detox mode. Too much bread, too much rice and beans, too much mama cooking. The best time, but I think I need a detox. You've been traveling, my friend?
I can see that you're at your mom's place with the curtains give you away for sure.
Everybody, mama, my mother is, 70 plus. So, the curtain game is an important thing, right? So at least 72 pillows per bed because, she loves to sew and she makes pillows, curtains. And literally in every table or every object that, has a flat surface, there's going to be 55 objects. Whether they make sense or they work in a design symbiosis, it doesn't matter. It just basically got to pack it.
Got to keep it interesting, right?
Oh, I know. Ton of pictures of me when I'm growing up and I have hair. Anyway, it's good. It's good to be home with your parents sometimes, right? And my kids, they just love it.
I'm sure she loves taking care of you and your kids for sure.
You have been traveling a ton, so you're also in need of a detox mode. How's it going?
Good, good. Yeah, I've been traveling and I also have more travel coming up. So I was doing my itinerary the other day and just went on Delta, and I think I had like about 5 or 6 different flights from different places. So it's hard to keep up. But if you're going to be if you're a listener and you're going to be in any conference over over the next couple of months, I'll be at EDUCAUSE, I'll be at AMA, AcroSem, I'll be at AACT, and a whole bunch of others as well. So if you are going to be there, just reach out and say hi for sure. But let's get into AI. Boy,
But before I do that, Diana Kadui, please make sure that you benefit from these miles. All right, let's talk about AI. Artists, today we have an interesting episode. You have been basically begging us. We need to talk about everything that is happening, and we've been catching up with many of these things in isolated moments, right? From what's happening with agents to the strawberry kind of tech drops from OpenAI. But what we wanted to do is putting it all together and have our listeners and friends kind of get a recap of what has happened and the state of the art of generative AI. So we're putting together a new episode, which we'll call it the 53 episode. The three most exciting things that you and I know from the five more interesting players in generative AI. Obviously, we're talking about OpenAI, Microsoft, Google, Anthropic, and Meta. So with that, artists, the 53, the three most interesting things about the five most interesting companies. OpenAI, my friend. So juicy. What are your top three there, man?
so many things to talk about. So
So
hopefully
many.
we
Like
can just provide the things that we're excited about.
we can go technical, we can go drama. They really gave us both here, right? So let's start with you. What do you want to
So let's go with the tech. Let's go with the technical, and
do?
then
Obvious. You. I'm the Latin here. I'm gonna go vibes and emotional. Okay. So what? Were you excited on the tech stuff? What Dev Day? Probably right.
yeah. So Dev Day was a couple of weeks ago, and OpenAI introduced a whole bunch of new stuff during their tech day. One of them was they released a whole bunch of stuff, right? One
Yeah.
of them was for us was the big thing was around the real time API. So now the real voice real time API. So
Hmm.
that was one of the things that we were waiting for to kind of advance our AI agents and AI outbound and inbound
And
and
interactions.
interaction. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what this allows you to do is now you can in real time talk to the AI and come back. So you don't have to translate that to text and then move it back to. So this we had discussed this a little while ago when we introduced, you know, the GPT-O Omni, right? So we talked about Omni back then and what the possibilities are, but it wasn't available on the APIs yet. And now it's available for us to use. And this means a lot of different things. So this was released last week, and we're already having it being tested in our and implementing it as part of our AI assistants. So
And Ardis, and you've been a student practitioner and thought leader on conversations. I think that it's fascinating to now when I bring my energy, that prompt, that interface really needs to move forward. I just love to see how the leap forward is 10 steps, like literally playing in my head, I'm playing checkers. I think that OpenAI and the friends there are playing chess, and it's a chess move. Here is a conversational interface. Just go at it the way we humans do it. So I really liked it, and I got to see the demo live. I was very very impressed of its multilingual capabilities, right? So literally hearing the AI doing real time processing while with a layer of real time translation. So the demo was in Portuguese or whatever language, and the output was always in English. So it was just super impressive, right?
it's pretty impressive, right? And it kind of gives a next generation interface. So till now, we've had this conversational interfaces, which has been through text. We used to have touch, which was when the iPhone came out, but now voice. It's actually here, right? Like as you see it, the delay is very minimal. It just feels very different. It feels like there's another person on the other side. There's the tone and intuitions on your voice, and everything feels very very natural. And I'm gonna bet that this is going to be a quite a big of an unlock. But in order to, so OpenAI also had a bunch of drama, and it's been on the news for quite a bit, right? Most of their team, their executive
It's gone.
team has gone. So if you remember the pictures where, you know, Brockman and Mira Murati and Sam Altman and so on and so forth. There was about those five of them that were in this picture that last year it was all over the web. Now only Sam Altman is on that team. He's the only one left. All the executive team has gone.
An impactful picture.
Yeah,
It's there's a sense of loneliness that when I saw that picture kind of gave me a feeling, but also a sense of strategy behind the scenes and artists. For everyone listening to this, right? So there's the melodrama, but it's the clear signal of two things. There's a gigantic amount of talent, awesome professionals as at the caliber of Miro and any of those executives who are basically dying to support Altman's and the OpenAI vision. So I wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow we have equally awesome people in that executive table. But also the signal is the company is going to a new realm of a business model. And we've been talking a lot of business models here in our kind of first dozen episodes. But the business model that they've been using is a strange one. It's complicated, right? It's a non for profit B Corp type of thing. Now, this is clear. We know where they're going, right? It's about making a buck and monetizing the incredible technology that they have introduced us and we all benefit from.
that is true. Yeah, exactly. Well, as a non-for-profit, actually, the larger ecosystem benefits more, but the ability to benefit monetarily out of it, it just wasn't possible. That's why people were not going to give them money, and compute is the name of the game today. So they needed a lot of compute in order to advance AI. You need a lot of these machines, and in order to buy those, you need a lot of cash. And that's the partnership with Microsoft back in the day in order to kind of fuel that growth and to fuel this AI advancement. However, in order to get further and further along, they have now realized that, hey, we can't do this as a non-for-profit or having this non-for-profit corporation. We need to actually go full in and become a for-profit organization so we can kind of take advantage and perhaps even IPO, hopefully by next year. So what they did is they're moving towards a for-profit organization, and they had the biggest fundraising ever with 6.5 billion in fundraising, which is incredible, right? It's the largest round of fundraising ever, and that signals the amount of compute that this frontier companies need to the world, to kind of the path to AGI, or to the path to large, bigger and bigger models and more advanced and capable models. So
And are these valuations at this level or fundraising at this level? These are highly quantitative exercises, so you just don't get $5.5 million because someone feels that you're an awesome technology.
right.
These assumes that the company is valuated at $157 billion. 157. Let's just round up. $116 billion company. So it would, the moment they decide to go public, if they decide to go public, it would probably make them one of the top, I guess, five companies in the world, and it's incredible. It's incredible achievement, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to see two or three or four players be at the frontier, where Anthropic is playing, where XAI is playing, Elon Musk's company, and maybe a couple other ones around the frontier models. However, it's going to require tons and tons of cash to do that. So speaking of their partners, Microsoft, I think that's the next company that we should kind of talk about, because as a partner to OpenAI, one of the articles that was released that I saw is that Microsoft has not been able to keep up with the demand for OpenAI and the compute. So they're their compute partner. As a matter of fact, OpenAI, partnered with Oracle to develop a new data center for them, and now Microsoft has gone in and accelerated their data center development, but power is a big portion of that. And one of the big news items that came out is that Microsoft bought 3 Mile Island, which is, for those of you who don't remember, that's the nuclear facility, power facility that's been shut down for quite a while. They want to revitalize it and have it be a source of energy to run their data centers, which is going to be very, very hungry. And we're seeing that quite a bit in kind of this path to building more and more AI, is that power is very, very important as part of that.
Which we should do an episode on the future called Clean AI, because that's a really interesting. It's a really interesting conversation that our listeners could benefit from, and us, we can also benefit from that deep level research. Powering these LLMs, as you mentioned, probably by now 5 times, compute is the game. Compute, compute, compute. It's a gigantic bill, to say the least. But the advancements on that area, specifically looking at nuclear, that sounds to 1966, type of thing. It's fascinating, and there's a lot that is happening there. So, look, Microsoft continues to be a player with deep pockets and continues to do a play that, in my sense, fits the classical canonical description of incremental innovation, steady at pace, but also looking inwards on infrastructure and build out. And I really like what they've done here. So, not as flashy as OpenAI or things that we're going to talk about in Google, showcasing tons of products. Copilot, Microsoft 360 continues to do its thing. There's a lot of adoption that they're having, but my gosh, steadily and consistently, they just basically continue to build its AI. I don't know. How do I call it when you just basically circle everything and just basically bring in that embrace of investment? Because let's be real, OpenAI with this innovation, it's a cousin, not distant at all, of Microsoft's and many other companies. So the portfolio of AI probably is the largest one in the world. I think that's a fact, and I just don't know how to quantify it. But it's incredible how they're turning it inside, and now they did that play on compute. Artists, at our last conference that you and I were together, there's a lot of, but I use OpenAI and then Microsoft, you give me this, aren't it the same and whatnot?
Right.
They're starting to go into that brand association of when should I use OpenAI versus when do I use Microsoft? And it's really interesting that they need to basically separate from that and have a claim of brand for the product distinction to be unique. And that's not a something that I think they've done really well. I look forward to seeing how that's going to play out in the future.
Forgot to mention that as part of ChatGPT, a new feature that they introduced, which makes it a lot more useful now, is this Canvas feature that they introduced, and I think it's kind of a missing feature, and it was something that Anthropic had introduced around artifacts, but it's a I think it's a different way of thinking about the, working in one single document rather than going through and working back and forth in a, of course, chat interface, but in a thread where you have an artifact that's getting updated. So check it out if you haven't. Canvas. There's a new option when you go to ChatGPT on the drop-down option. It's the GPT 4.0 with Canvas, and it's going to have a little beta next to it. Are we done with Microsoft? Actually, no, we're not done with Microsoft. You mentioned Copilot. Copilot, they introduced their next version of Copilot. They introduced essentially much better, much more capable Copilot with more agentic, workflows in there. And you're actually seeing this Copilot as a personal AI, and that's the influence of Mustafa from Pi. If you remember Pi, that was the company that Microsoft acquired and put in charge, was the head of the CEO of that company was put in charge of the AI initiatives at Microsoft, and you were seeing the first kind of iteration of his fingerprints on Copilot and making it more of a personal AI and helper and so on and so forth.
I think the part that I like from the technology drops from the past 8 weeks, artists, is that it's consistent that they look at Microsoft as a productivity tool themselves. They know they're a productivity tool, so their AI drops in a way of features are in context and orchestrated with their email solutions, their Word document, the whole suite of products, aka Microsoft 365. So I think it's a good, I don't know if I can call it closed loop system, but it's within their suite of products. So they're doing a really good portfolio build up, if you will. Let's switch to Google. I am really excited about what Google has done, artists. So let me lead with, for me, in technical deployments. These research projects that come from Google Labs. I don't know if you know the history of where Notebook LM comes, right? There's a product called Google Notebook LM that is a fascinating way that instead of giving a training data that it's basically from anywhere, it specializes in ingesting documents in PDF form, like this type. Just imagine that you have a notebook and you want it to be trained against. So that's what it specializes at. Think about the last paper that you read. Think about a newspaper or a textbook that resides in your Kindle, right? So it trains against that. Why is that interesting? Because it's about the speed in which it can be used, and the context windows, as we've been talking about, now leverage this in terms of recency. So what is the output? Summarization that is better. What is the output? Type of contextual search that has that notebook as top of mind. So in a human aspect, problem du jour is the idea that sometimes you talk about the most recent problem that you have because it's top of mind. So a really simple application there. But the gangster move there is that they added a voice feature. So it summarizes using a voice feature. So you could say, it just gives me, I pick the voice, nothing new. No. They made it into a podcast. An artist, you have played with that. I have played with it, and I've seen incredible applications. So everybody, think about, I have a exam tomorrow, and it's about contract law. So I'm a law student, and it's super complicated. So all this time, what I can hear is a podcast that summarizes the entire read up in, I don't know, 45 minutes or whatever length. And then also I'm good to go because the way I ingest data in a podcast, it's highly intuitive, and the retention factor, it's really, really high. So it's a really great play in the use case of technology utilization rather than LMs with a very narrow use case. So really, really love what they've done.
Big fan of Notebook LM. I've been using it now for a little bit. JC, let me see if I can share. Give me 1 second here.
Oh, demo. So, all right, artists, what do we got here?
So this is an output of the podcast from Notebook LM of some documentation around Element, our pitching, our positioning in the market, and kind of some of the problems that we're trying to solve. So let's take a look at the output here of this podcast to see how natural this is.
Ever feel like college admissions is designed to be overwhelming? Like between endless program choices, impersonal communication, and applications straight from the dark ages, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Today, we're diving into Element 451, a company using AI not just to streamline those processes, but to personalize the whole college experience.
Okay.
Imagine, like, having a guide available 24/7, tailored to your academic journey from the moment you start searching for programs all the way to graduation.
What's exciting about Element 451 is they're flipping the script on these age-old problems in higher education. We've all been there drowning in brochures, getting those generic emails that feel like they were written for everyone and no one. Element 451 wants to make a team of 10 feel like 100, using AI to work smarter, not harder.
And it seems to be working. They've gone from 100 partner institutions to over 250 in just a couple of years, with revenue through the roof. Even more impressive, they hit break-even in the second half of 2024, showing their model isn't just innovative, it's sustainable.
That's a sign of a company that's onto something big. They've zeroed in on 5 major challenges in higher education, and they're tackling them head-on. Take, for instance, choosing a program. That's stressful enough, but then trying to connect that choice to your future career. Talk about information overload.
Seriously, who hasn't stared blankly at a course catalog and wondered, what am I even doing with my life?
Right. It's decision paralysis at its finest. That's where Element 451's Bolt Discovery comes in. Instead of just giving you a list of every art history program under the sun, this AI-powered search engine actually predicts what you're looking for based on your interests and goals.
So if I tell it I'm secretly obsessed with robots but also love writing poetry, it might suggest something like creative writing for game design.
Precisely. It connects those seemingly disparate interests and opens up a world of possibilities you might never have considered. One of Element 451's clients, Foresight Tech, saw a 20% jump in applications and enrollment just by implementing this tool. That tells you it's not just a gimmick. It's genuinely helping students find their path.
Okay, that's impressive. But what about once you're actually in college? That's when those generic mass emails from the administration really start flooding your inbox.
And let's be honest, no one's clicking on those. This is another area where Element 451 shines. They're using conversational AI, powered by models like ChatGPT, to create a more personalized communication experience. Think about it, 24/7 support that feels like you're talking to a real person, ready to answer your specific questions in a way that's actually helpful.
That would have been a lifesaver when I was trying to, figure out how to register for classes without having a meltdown. But let's be real. The application process itself can be a nightmare, even worse than actually being in college sometimes. Am I right?
You're preaching to the choir. It's a pain point for everyone involved.
Ardis, that was impressive. Number one, shame of you and I, we don't sound as good as these two humans, right? But isn't that incredible how, and I'd love to know what you fed this with, but in a way it is able to contextualize. This is going to work on a company valuation, start going through the talking points that maybe you and your sales team have perfected, that this is what our clients want, and blah, 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 blah. And all of a sudden is deployed to us in a real podcast. How did you train this? What were you using? And this is fascinating.
I literally just threw in some of our training material that our team uses internally. We loaded in our positioning, like what are the problems that we're solving, and I loaded in over 100 of the problems and pain points that our customers and essentially, how we're mapping those to our products and how our products solve that. So that's kind of what I loaded in there, is just training material, and it went ahead and build a whole podcast around it, which is pretty cool.
It's impressive. One thing to remind everybody, one of the features in terms of recency that it's used here makes this deployment slightly slower. So Ardis, when you loaded these documents, how long did it take for the podcast to be generated?
Well, depending on the length, I generated a couple that were maybe 5 minutes, and then as I added more and more data sources, it took a little bit longer. So it took about 10 to 15 minutes to generate, but it generated about 20 minutes or plus of audio, which was pretty impressive, but still taking less than 1x the time to generate that audio, and kind of the back and forth is really, really interesting.
Everybody, just another sign of productivity here. It takes us, I don't know, a few hours to prepare. It takes us an hour to record, and then the post-edition team spends probably equal the amount of time. So let's just say each session of this podcast are about 20 hours of good work. Just imagine $100 an hour. Guys, each podcast, it's what, $2,000, right, in production, right? Whereas
more than that, yeah.
I mean, I'm just throwing numbers there, right? So imagine the productivity gains here, and Ardis and I try really hard, but those two guys are much better than us. Let's just be clear.
so natural, and with the pauses and
Just the jokes. You just if their jokes were better, like mine, then we're good. We're good.
Huh, yeah, it's interesting. I have to try that. I have to see if we can train it with some material to.
It's called train it with the most recent dad jokes, and then you'll get me.
That's right. That's right.
All right, let's move on. So that's Google Notebook LMs. Fascinating. With the artist, anything that you're interested in on your top three from Google?
So the one that's probably you should be paying attention right now. Yeah, exactly. So
But Google as a large enterprise, their commitment to kind of organizing the information around the world. So on brand, they basically invested $120 million in AI education. This is through Google.org. I worked with a ton of things that they've done. So it's interesting how they continue to leverage that. But obviously, it's going to be, I don't know. How can I say obviously? I would assume, I speculate they'll be product focused because they're lagging on adoption relative to our big players, OpenAI, Microsoft, and Anthropic. With that, should we switch to Anthropic and we leave Meta at the end, on the open source aspect? So what are you excited about on Anthropic?
with Anthropic, they introduced a couple of really interesting things recently. Obviously, their big thing that they've introduced, and if we go back 8 weeks, it's like this falls within that. But similar to OpenAI, Canvas Artifacts is a really really amazing component as part of their Claude AI capabilities that they introduced. Artifacts. We talked about this before. As a matter of fact, we actually did. A couple episodes back, we did a use case where we use the artifacts feature to do some synthetic data generation. But it's one of the better from a product. As a product person, I feel like they nailed artifacts and with the sharing capabilities and so on and so forth. So that's the thing that excites me the most around Anthropic. Also, Anthropic has still their model, the 3.5 Sonnet, it's still at the top of the list, and they keep improving it for writing capabilities. And obviously, they're doing a lot of research on how to optimize, their services. Their prompt caching is really, really important as you load more documents, but that's on the developer side. So they've also launched Claude Enterprise plans, very similar to OpenAI Enterprise. So now you can have Claude be available to your whole team or even at the enterprise level. So they're starting to productize more and more of their infrastructure in there. I wouldn't be surprised over the next couple of weeks for them to release a new model that kind of surpasses or even has this multimodal capabilities as part of it to kind of keep up and kind of introduce more capabilities in there.
At about a 40 billion valuation based on my research.
Oh yeah, of
Right.
course, and they raise more money too.
A company that in terms of brand, it's lagging behind the big three that we just mentioned, but in terms of output and contribution, technical contribution, it's keeping up. If anything, it's putting a pressure that I think OpenAI needs. So technically speaking, I find them to be one of my preferred ones. Let me do social experiment live with your artist, so I can kind of, I guess, lead the witness. 1 to 10, rate yourself as an AI expert.
Let's say maybe like a 7.5 or an 8.
Right. Perfect. That'll put you in the advanced realm, right? If you wanted to write a document that has more nuance, which tool would you use just for writing?
I would definitely use Claude for writing.
Mhm. Yeah. So, by the way, this is literally live. I haven't prepped this with artists. That's what I'm seeing a lot on advanced users. We tend to gravitate towards Claude for its ability to write better, for its ability to do research and originality in a less cookie cutter way. I don't know if I could use that word, but I've been seeing Claude depart and be the tool of preference for many advanced users when it comes to writing. We'll see what happens, how they leverage that, but definitely in terms of features, they have a demonstrated autonomy for generating, invalidating research ideas, surpassing human experts in terms of originality and excitement. So, I guess that's the feature that I'm benefiting from, and that's why, as a user, you and I and many other experts are tending to go to Anthropic, Claude, for writing. We'll see what happens. Everybody remember, Claude, Anthropic, It's Amazon's cousin, right? Distant cousin here.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we did not choose Amazon as in our top five, but they're there, right, in the ecosystem somehow.
Yeah, they're getting a lot of usage right now, and their models are getting a lot of usage because people who want everything under they're on the Amazon cloud, and Amazon or AWS rather is the most popular cloud provider there. And today they actually have, as part of their infrastructure, have Sonnet and Claude, these models as part of their infrastructure. So you can actually host them on your own, and you can get them through the AWS cloud. So essentially, people who are in AWS, they're like, well, I'm already in this ecosystem. Why would I need to go somewhere else? If they need this localized within their VPC models. So they're getting the best of the best in there. And then Anthropic is seeing a huge growth because of that as well.
Absolutely. So we have saved one of the most exciting for last. Why? Because in my point of view, Meta surprised me in the past few weeks with such good drops of AI. So starting with their, keynotes and a series of drops leading to it, we have Meta coming strong with both product drops but also kind of organizing micro drops, if you will. So what are you the most excited about what Meta, or maybe not the one, but give me your top three on Meta.
One thing that I'm really excited is that they introduced these glasses, and you know we've talked about Ray-Ban glasses and Meta, AI is part of their glasses, but it was mostly around audio, right? So there was some audio that was coming to you over AI, and then there was a camera in your glasses. So Ray-Ban and Meta had worked on that as part of your agency, work. That was one of your clients that you guys did some work with, and the form factor was amazing, right? The form factor is great. It's very obtrusive. But what they announced the other day is an experimentation, a product that's a pre-release product, and it might not be in the market for a couple of years. So basically, they were showcasing us what the future could be like and what they're working on, which is Project Orion, and is virtual reality glasses, essentially glasses that look exactly like the Ray-Ban glasses with the cameras, but now the lenses are actually projection lenses, so actually see through them, but also I guess they're see-through screens as well. They're projecting in real time. So I went back to my Apple Vision Pro, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm like,
The best $3,000 you spent.
exactly. I'm like, why would I need this anymore if I can have this
Oh,
really cool looking glasses, that, can project things on the lenses. So that I was really, really impressed with that. But it's not going to be available, right? Because the whole idea of Apple Vision Pro or an Apple is that you got to produce these things. You got to execute the supply chain. You got to make these products in large quantities. This was an experiment, and this was a product that is a preview that might not come to the market for a couple of years.
and this is where I said let's slow down, artists, because it's fascinating, right? So three things I want to mention on this. So yeah, it's very exciting, right? Number one, let's remember that this moves a little bit away from the AI alone angle, and it puts it in a true engineering project, right? Because spatial computing, which is what Apple glasses wanted to do, it's this idea that there's a new paradigm in which we're going to be entering with augmented reality, lenses in front of our glasses allows us to do computing, right? And spatial computing, it's a thing. It's just basically too early. It's an engineering project because I don't know if this is right, but it's like each glasses will be like, I don't know, $20,000, a ridiculous number, because it's so expensive. But the engineering behind it, and I think they've been working at it for quite some time, fascinating. So applaud them on trying to push this forward and not giving us sunglasses or that look like an ski goggles, right? The aspect of the design requirements are very, very simple. Make it appealing, and just we should look more normally in that sense. Number two, Meta, unlike Microsoft or Google, it's a social networking organization, right? Company. And as such, the deployments of artificial intelligence and products need to be fit within that roadmap and vision, right? So it's hard for them to do certain things like, I don't know, just improving document loads and multi-model things, because it's strange. So it's fascinating how they're playing that out. Having said that, can just imagine when these things are available and we can all benefit from it, and they're accessible and they're working, and we don't look like people from out of Earth. And then also, like, you can embed social networking, these ideas of artificial intelligence, augmented reality, and then now I have it in my eyes, and I can be having a conversation with you and having this podcast, but basically with my blink, I just basically responded to an email. I mean, there's a new sense of productivity that emerges that mixes productivity, entertainment, the work. So it'll be fascinating. I cannot wait. Simple reality, we're not there. Thank you, Meta, for trying this.
Yeah, it's amazing, right? It's kind of a new way we're going to interact with the world.
And Ardis, as a social media network, I think it's just important for us to mention a few things that they've done that will integrate with our experience of usage in social media. So this idea of a movie generation, right? And all these new creator tools that are coming that leverage AI on social and reels. I think you have a little bit on movies, right? Have you seen that?
Yeah, yeah. So they also introduced, they keep moving the research forward. They introduced Movie Gen, which is an amazing video generation model to kind of compete with Sora and a whole bunch of other ones. So I found it very, very interesting because the use cases of that for Facebook and for all their different platforms is, how can I upload a picture of myself and then imagine myself as in different situations and so on and so forth. So their use cases are so much more interesting than everybody else's, where it's all about productivity and work and things like that. Whereas, Meta is all about, interacting, real world interactions, companionship in the social aspect. So it's really, really cool.
Artist has a sweet spot for entertainment because he does a productivity tool 9 to 5. So I think that's why he's
That's
reacting.
it.
So
That's it.
obviously,
I'm like, God damn it! I want to do a B2C thing. I want to.
hey, artists, you are powering a lot of 9 to 5 business today. So your next phase probably is going to be, I don't know, something for gaming. We'll see. All right, everybody, this is top 53, the three most interesting things, or 3+ for the 5 most interesting companies that we follow. No mention to Apple, no mention to Amazon and many other incredible companies, not because they're not incredible, just because we think that there's these 5 companies that are driving the script. They're playing chess on this awesome game of generative AI. Artists, you want to wrap it up? You want to wrap this up and send us off?
Yeah, thanks, JC, and enjoy your mom's cooking. Hopefully, I'll see you soon. And till next time, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Generation AI is part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you're going to like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing weekly, and we've got a wide range of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our shows help higher ed leaders and professionals like you find their next big idea. They feature a selection of the industry's best as your hosts, like Jamie Hunt, Seth Odell, Jenny Lee Fowler, Brian Gross, and many of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform that's helping institutions all over the country create meaningful, personalized, and engaging connections with their prospects and students. Learn more at element451.com.